I, Soni Kumari Singh, welcome you to the channel The Viewpoint. And today's segment is India This Week. And today we have Mr. Nelson Dev, and who is an active member of MAHA, Men Against Violence. And he is also part of the documentary Conversation Matters. And so today we're going to talk about how men are not, active about the fact they also need to fight for women. How are they supposed to know that?
Okay, because first of all, we need to know what kind of a society are we living in, and there are certain issues which are human issues, and we need not categorize it as men's issues or women's issues. So I think it starts from very young and from the home that issues, and these are human issues. So not really looking at it as men's issues or women's issues is, I think, the first thing that we can
So,
think of.
sir, how the young generation need to be taught about the fact that they need to actually, I would use the word respect, because the first thing which comes to our mind against women violence is people don't respect women. They don't give them equal rights. So, how the young generation need to learn about that thing?
Yeah, I think that's really right that we need to start working with younger boys and men because, and it starts from your home. Like if you are a father, you need to set the example right
Yes.
because as young people, they are looking up to the men in their families. And it is, we of course live in a very patriarchal society, it is imbibed in our system, in our bloods. But I think not looking at women as properties, but just looking as a person and a human being, I think can change a lot of things. And working with young boys and men, you don't tell them what needs to be done. They learn by seeing and observing. So as older men, you need to be setting examples in front of them.
As you said, I would like to quote that fathers are the example for young generation or the young men. So, can we also say that women also need to be the example where the young generation know and learn about the rights and everything?
Absolutely. I mean, because now we're talking for boys and men, I said,
Yes.
as fathers or elder men. But I think just in our society, I think we all have roles to play, and we all need to set examples and be of role models to younger people, irrespective of what gender you are. I mean, why are we always talking in binaries about men and women? There are different kinds of genders, and acknowledging them and respecting them, and each one playing their own roles I think can actually lead to a better environment and a world where everybody lives in unity because we are all very diverse people. When we also just talk about men, we're talking about heteronormative men. But even in men, there are different kinds of men. So acknowledging and recognizing that there are different kinds of men, I think also is important.
So, what is your point of view on the intersexuality? Like people who are not, like they are saying they're not considering themselves as men, or
Okay.
they identify themselves as someone else.
Hmm.
So, what is your point of view? Is it right or is it wrong?
So you mean intersex people?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. See, again, I mean, it's their own personal choice, right? And intersex people are actually born with ambiguous, sexual organs at their birth. All right. So we really like, they have both the organs in their body, and those are intersex people.
Yes.
So how can you say what is right and what is wrong?
Yes.
We see a lot of intersex people on the streets because the society does not accept, because it does not fit into the normal. For us, normal is like you are either a male
Male or
born with your organs that are sexual organs which are of male and of a female. But if you are a little different, then you are not considered a part of the society. So I mean, you cannot outcast somebody and say that you do not fit into our society, because there are people who exist like that. There are people who are born like that. But I think now the government is doing a lot of
Yes,
work
yes.
with intersex people, and that's a hope that we have.
So the government is working on it. The government is normalizing lot of things, but I think the society needs to focus more on it and work on a very personal level. If they have a friend or any relative, they need to focus on that issue more, because on a very larger scale you can't handle everything. Government is there to do that, but on a personal level you can also do it. Yes, sir.
So, see, basically, even where do we see intersex people's representations? We either see on television, we either see on movies, and how are intersex people represented in films? It's of a mockery, right? Like, it's a fun. So, as young people, we're only seeing intersex people on screen or we're reading about them as insulting and not something that is okay, and I think those things need to change. I think as we see more representation, we see more intersex people around us, things are going to change. And I think now the government is also doing a lot of work with colleges, universities, workspaces where they have a category which is others,
Yes.
like, male, female, and that's how a lot of conversation will start. Because as a young person, if I'm going to a college, I get a form and I've never spoken about what others is, that will be a conversation starter. I will then ask, what is this others for?
Exactly.
And then, things start. Maybe I've never spoken about it at home because it wasn't of a importance, but I think these small steps, even if I see toilets which say of transgender people, or we see people around us who are of this section, then I think things are going to be
Small
normalized.
baby steps will lead to a bigger
Yeah,
solution.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, sir, now we're talking about women so much, but we should also not forget about the fact that if we take an example for male rape,
Mm-hmm.
even that happens, but nobody talks about it. If a
Mm.
man is raped, the question arises how, and that's not something which is normal. A man can be raped. So, what's your opinion on
I
this?
think we had the screening before the interview, and this question did arise about child sexual abuse. And it is reported that in India, it is usually the boys who are sexually abused most when they are children. But it's not reported because the moment, as a man, I say that I've been raped, I am perceived that I'm weak. And in our society, if men come out as weak, then they're not looked
Yes.
upon at, they're looked down at. So, that's a huge taboo that's happening around. People don't want to say that you're weak, and just building a lot of shields around yourself that, you are masculine, you're a man, nothing can affect you. There isn't any kind of a, like, anything that's come, I can face it. So being the provider, being like the protector, all these are traits that young boys pick up when they're growing up. Anything that is less, they feel less of a man. So even talking about men's rape is something that is looked down at, you know
So, do you think the masculinity of a man is questioned out there?
Of
If yes.
course, very much, very much. From a very young age, I would say. Like, even if I've seen children who go to parks, and if a small child falls while playing, the mother would say, like, लड़कियों के जैसे क्यों रो रहे हो?
Yes.
And for everything that he does, if he's every time used these kind of phrases, then he feels that probably I am becoming more like a girl, and crying is a male trait, being emotional is a female trait. So these kind of things you are already gendering, and you're already creating these boxes that female or girls cry, boys don't cry.
There are different categories which are made, that girls are supposed to do this, and
Mm.
the male, to show their masculinity, they are supposed to do this. So, how do we, as a young generation, how do we break that? How do we break that stereotype?
Yeah, I think we can all be allies in kind of changing the dialogues and the conversations that happen. And we can start from our own homes. So, whenever we are sitting together, we have different generations of people when we sit around. You have your parents, you have you, maybe you have elder brothers, son, daughter. So, maybe three generations are sitting together. And whenever we are talking about certain things, we need to be very particular about the dialogue that we have. as young people, when we see, and we kind of get these questions that older generation people do not understand a lot of things. But acknowledging that they have also come from a time and space where these conversations were not very normal. I mean, people didn't openly talk about sexuality, about attractions, and all of these things. But I think just putting your point forward makes a big deal. It creates a safe space, a non judgmental space, and you need not always have to be right.
Yes.
But I think it's better to speak than be silent.
Yes.
Because if you're silent, you're a bystander. You're seeing things happening, but you're not
Not
taking any
taking action.
action.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So my last question would be, how does this documentary, Conversation Matters, will help the society and us to bring a change?
See, it's just a small effort because we need role models. We need to redefine what masculinity means.
Yes.
All of these times we've seen masculinity meaning this kind of a chest, having muscles, having mooch, driving
Yes.
a car or all that. But then there are different kinds of masculinities, and a lot of people, young people, are not seeing what is that other kind of masculinity. So through this film, and this is a part of a bigger project where we want to showcase men from different parts of India who are changing the dialogue of
Yes.
what masculinity means, so that young people see them as role models and can aspire to become somebody like that and not have this conventional term as masculinity meaning that you have to be like this and this. So it is a small effort of bringing people's work outside and showing the younger people that okay, this is how we're redefining what masculinity means.
Thank you so much, sir. We are really grateful to have you today here and talk about the things which nobody does. So there's a line, बात करेंगे तभी तो बात बनेगी, which means if we talk about the problems, then only we'll find solution to the bigger uh, problems which we are still yet to find out about. So thank you so much and stay tuned to the next segment for India This Week.